Can I have your attention for 1 minute before we start the meeting? Anybody's here to speak during the open public hearing, you do not have to fill out one of the comment cards. I'll call for that during the meeting. Anybody else who wishes to speak needs to fill out a card if they want to speak on any of the topics that are on the agenda. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This meeting is a meeting of the Salisbury City Council Legislative Session for August 13th, 2018. I ask that you please silence any devices that make noise. And if you need to take a phone call, we ask that you do it outside of the chambers. If for some reason during the meeting an emergency should arise, please exit in an orderly manner, make a right-hand turn and go down the stairs. If that exit for some reason is blocked, make a left-hand turn and a right-hand turn and go down the stairs. Please do not use elevators in case of an emergency. If you need special assistance, please ask and will be provided to you. Thank you. At this time, I'll invite Pastor Cortland Cropper of Washington United Methodist Church to the podium for our invocation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight I'm reading from Colossians, the 2nd chapter, the 2nd and 3rd. My goal is that we may be encouraged in heart and living in love, and that we may have full riches and complete understanding, in order that we may know the mystery of God, namely Christ, and whom has hidden all treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Let us pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we ask special blessings on the people that have been called to lead our fine city, where we live, where we work, where we play. Help them, Father, our leaders, not to ask first, how do we fix this, but how do we need to learn? How might we need to change? To whom do we need to listen? Grant them and us the wisdom and courage to know what is right, what is good, what is true. May they always be guided by the spirit of the community and the spirit of justice and in the spirit of love. In the name of the Father, and the Son, through the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please rise now and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we have a special presentation.
Mr. President, we do. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is probably the second fullest I've ever seen this room, and that's a beautiful thing. Today we are here to celebrate the accomplishments of some incredible young athletes in our community. So today we celebrate the accomplishments of both players and coaches of the R1 Aces. Both the R1 Aces 10 and under team and 12 and under teams played in the AAU Maryland D3 state qualifier in April 2018. 10 and under team finished in 3rd place, qualifying the team for an invitation to the D3 AAU Nationals. And the 12 and under team won the D3 Maryland State Championship and qualified for the D3 AAU Nationals. The under 13 team also competed and has won 3 tournaments this year in the greater Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. The R1 Aces 12 and under team is a very skilled and hardworking team, led by head coach Maurice Douglas Sr., assisted by Vernon DeShields and Winfield Chandler. The team follows coaching instructions very well, that's what I'm told, and has won 6 championships during the 2017-2018 season, including a 2018 D3 AAU National Championship. The teams have met the challenge of coaches implementing vigorous training, pushing team members to the limits in practices in order to develop their skills to a higher level. The 12 and under players have committed themselves to hard work in the gym, and that has led to success and winning on a national level. They have witnessed their hard work result in great reward, putting the city of Salisbury and the R1 Aces program on the map for great upcoming talent. And the R1 Aces 10 and under team is on the rise as one of the top 10 and under teams on the Eastern Shore, finishing 3-1 in pool play during AAU Nationals. The 10 and under team is led by head coach Vernon DeShields and assisted by Winfield Chandler and Maurice Douglas. And the 10 and under team continues to work hard during training and leads their age group locally, which places the team on track to be national champions one day. The goal of the R1 Aces program is to prepare each and every player to receive an academic and athletic college scholarship, which should allow each player to develop leadership qualities which can contribute to benefit society as they become our future leaders. So now, therefore, I, Jacob Day, Mayor of the City of Salisbury, do hereby recognize the R1 Aces, their coaches, and their entire teams for their well-earned accomplishments this season and their dedication to the Salisbury community. Let's hear it for you. So, may I have Coach Douglas, Coach DeShield, and Coach Chandler?
Coach Douglas is moments away. I understand.
Okay, all right, all right. And I also see that my good friend, and does everybody know Andre Collins in this room?
I think so.
Yeah? Okay. Most of us do. My good friend, Andre Collins, who has played a role with this team. Is that correct?
Yes, he did.
An important role in shaping this team? For those of you who don't know, I was a big fan, and I still am, but was a big fan when you were playing at University of Maryland, Terrapin from 2000 to 2004, is that right?
Yep.
We appreciate you and everything you've done to help these young players.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You guys mind helping me? We're going to call up each player. And then if we can get them all in the front. Okay.
Start with me.
Yeah, let's start.
Maurice Brown.
Get your certificate. And go right around there.
Josiah Bassenite Johnson. Miles Jarman. I don't see Miles here, but we'll recognize Miles. David Chandler.
Congratulations.
Christopher Richardson Jr. Chris, shake hands, Chris. Get a shake hand. Jaden Hudson. Emmanuel Ortiz Villiman. Tyler Ball. Carmelo Fleming. Coach Maurice Douglas. Just went to that. Maurice Douglas Jr.
Jasir Horsey. Jaron Hudson. Jaden Mills. Mikael Ingram. Vernon DeShields III. Kenneth Jones. Elijah Milburn. Javon Kamajis. Tayshawn Swan.
All right. Tymir Thomas? Not here. Okay. Kanias Alston? Curtis Thomas Jr. Chris Love. Isaac Roberts. Makai Thompson Ayers. Bryant Waters Jr. Not here. Malik Leatherberry. No. Gakai Mills. Not here. How did I get all everybody who's not here? Marquez Mitchell. Landon Finney. DeMar Brunson. All right, coaches, can we get you in a picture? Sure. Get you in the middle, and I'll go run back.
Yeah.
Mayor, half these kids are taller than you.
I'm all right back here. Yeah. Jim gives me some tall kids in the back. There we go. Where are you going? All right, I'm going on that.
How's these shorts?
Yes.
I always end up in shorts.
Everyone dressed up too.
Back here on 3. Everybody's top look game for 3.
All right. Looking good. Let's do it one more time.
Good on 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right. Let's hear it for you. I didn't say that. Okay. Hey, for family, all of these pictures will be online on the city Facebook page. So, City of Salisbury on Facebook. Thank you all.
Of course.
Way to go. Way to go, guys.
Good job, guys. Congratulations.
We should have told him to call him back. Thank you very much. Hey, thank you. Good job. Thanks.
Congratulations. Good job. Whoops. Thank you.
You should have made him stay. Should have made him stay.
The whole meeting?
Yeah.
We'll do those civics lesson.
Yeah, would have been good.
I sure hope the news media is here. Nope, don't think so. We'll make sure they get it.
Family come for trouble.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, but I,
That's been my experience.
yep.
That's kind of how they operate.
It sounds like those kids are having a lot of success. Maybe some real future
Okay,
success there.
we have another event tonight, which is a very positive thing. We have the swearing in of Housing Community Development Director Everett Howard by our Clerk of the Circuit Court, Mark Bowen. Come to the podium, please.
All right, Mr. Howard, are you prepared to take the oath? All right, you want to kind of turn around, face your family and friends, and if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Everett Howard,
do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of
execute the office of
Director of Housing and Community Development
Director of Housing and Community Development
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
Congratulations.
He's got a sign.
You got a sign.
You got work to do.
Well, may I just say that it's a proud moment when we add to our team, and the team's not really growing here because Everett's been with the city for just shy of 30 years, but he's filled a number of important roles, but this is a critical one, helping our neighborhoods be high quality and safe places. And Everett, we're blessed to have you. Appreciate you being willing to take on the role. Thank you. Absolutely. And I just want to say a thank you to the City Council for your support of Everett. Your support every step of the way, but in particular.
Congratulations, Everett. Good luck.
We'll be seeing more of each other.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the legislative agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ireton, Mr. Boda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Ireton. Good evening, Ms. Nichols.
On the consent agenda, we have the April 17th, 2018 budget session minutes. I'd like to note that a typo was corrected on line 81. That's page 2. The word billion was changed to million. What's a zero or two among friends, right?
Says the clerk.
Yeah.
We wish.
July 16th, 2018 work session minutes, July 16th, 2018 closed session minutes, July 23rd, 2018 regular meeting minutes, resolution number 2857 approving the appointment of Lorraine Bosman to the Zoo Commission for term ending April 2021. I believe that would be August 2021. Correct? We'll correct that if it's not in the packet corrected, too. Is that?
I think she's filling a position. I think April is correct,
Okay.
but we can correct it if.
All right, April 2021. Resolution number 2858, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the State of Maryland General Services for the purpose of expending grant funds in the amount of $500,000. Resolution number 2859, approving a Maryland Department of Natural Resources Community Parks and Playgrounds grant application for funding for 2 projects, the Salisbury Skate Park Phase 2B, the final phase, and the Waterside Park restroom and maintenance building and pavilion. We have 6 manufacturing exemption requests this evening. The first one is from Jubilant Cadista Pharmaceuticals, Inc. for their equipment purchased in 2017. Over the next 5 years, they'll benefit from this exemption by a total savings of $399,619 in personal property tax. We have Delmarva Printing, Inc. for their equipment purchased in 2017. Over the next 5 years, they'll benefit from this exemption by a savings of $3,150 in personal property tax. K&L Microwave for their equipment purchased in 2017, and over the next 5 years, they'll benefit by a total savings of $21,654 in their personal property tax. Machining Technologies, Inc. for equipment purchased in 2015 and 16. Over the next 5 years, they'll benefit by a total savings of $1,969. Purdue Foods, LLC, for their equipment purchased in 2017. Over the next 5 years, they'll benefit by $173,398 in personal property tax. And we have Smith's Interconnect Microwave Components, and they purchased equipment in 2017. And over the next 5 years, they'll benefit by $3,686 in their personal property taxes. And that's it.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Chair
you.
votes aye. Thank you, Mrs. Nichols. I'll entertain a motion to approve the award of bids.
So move.
Second it.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Rudisil. Good evening, Mrs. Miller. How are you?
Good evening. several items on the award of bid for this evening. The first is a change order number 6. The Department of Procurement received a request from the Department of Infrastructure and Development to process change order number 6 in the amount of $208,056 for RFP 10-15. That's the wastewater treatment plant, construction, management, and inspection. 2 months of additional full-time CM&I services are necessary due to the construction schedule extension to October 31st, 2018. This change order also incorporates 1 additional month of contingent CM&I services through November 30th, 2018, such as part-time inspection to close out punch lists, final walkthroughs, support to the city on negotiation of any final claims, closeout of construction documentation, coordination with MDE, and overall coordination efforts with the contractor, Ullman Schutte. Use of contingency services would be paid on a time and materials basis rather than a lump sum amount, and services would be billed as incurred. Funds are available in the wastewater treatment plant project accounts noted in your packet, and additional details are noted in the departmental memo as well. The Department of Procurement hereby requests Council's approval for change order number 6 as noted above to GHD in the amount of $208,056.
Questions? Okay.
The next item this evening is an award of bid for contract ITB A-11-18. The Department of Procurement received a request from the Department of Infrastructure and Development to solicit bids for all labor, materials, and equipment necessary for citywide concrete repair and replacement, which will require multiple mobilizations in various areas throughout the city. The work to be performed includes curb, gutter, and sidewalk installation, removal, and patching, and paver installation. As such, this will constitute an open-end, purchase-as-needed contract. While the city has attempted to identify the estimated amounts of each bid item to cover its requirements, the quantity of work ordered may be different than that submitted for bidding. No minimum purchase was implied or guaranteed. Thereby, the city reserves the right to decrease or increase the quantities acknowledged in the solicitation document, and said modifications do not constitute a change order. Additionally, the solicitation included a contract extension clause. This provides the city with the option to renew all or portions of this contract with the same prices, terms, and conditions as the original contract for 2 one-year terms, contingent upon sufficient budget appropriations and mutual agreement between the city and the vendor. The Department of Procurement followed standard competitive bidding practices by advertising in the Daily Times and posting the solicitation on both the City of Salisbury's procurement portal and on the State of Maryland's website, eMaryland Marketplace. A total of 5 vendors submitted bids by the due date and time of July 24, 2018 at 2:30 p.m. Barker's Landing Excavation for $103,312.75. ECM Corporation for a bid amount of $117,850. HEH Incorporated for a bid amount of $126,645. RS&J Excavation for a bid amount of $166,650. And Johnson's Concrete Construction for a bid amount of $186,315. Barker's Landing Excavation from Easton, Maryland submitted the lowest responsive and responsible bid, and the Department of Procurement hereby requests Council's approval to award contract A-11-18 to Barker's Landing Excavation, with all subsequent annual renewals processed by the Department of Procurement. Funding for yearly concrete work is budgeted in 2 accounts, which are noted in the departmental memo, and purchase orders for specific tasks will be issued as needed.
Any questions? Okay, Ms. Miller.
The next item is an award of bid for RFP 11-18. The Procurement Department received a request from the Department of Finance to obtain lease services for several pieces of equipment and vehicles which were approved by City Council in the fiscal year 19 budget. This solicitation was developed as a master lease financing program which will allow the City of Salisbury to enter into a 2-year term contract for the acquisition of capital equipment items, furnishings, or systems by financing the acquisition through a lessor. The Department of Procurement followed standard competitive bidding practices by advertising in the Daily Times and posting the solicitation on both the City of Salisbury procurement portal and on the State of Maryland's website, eMaryland Marketplace. A total of 2 vendors submitted proposals by the due date and time of July 17, 2018 at 2:30 p.m. for the equipment noted in the departmental memo. Both vendors were determined to be responsive and responsible, and their proposals were evaluated on a 100-point scale according to the criteria established in the solicitation document. That criteria consisted of overall cost to the city, experience, references, and financial stability, and any added value included in the proposal. The 2 vendors were Bank of America Public Capital Corporation and Bank Funding LLC. In your packet, you'll note the overall evaluation scores, the 5-year lease rate, and the 7-year lease rates. The Department of Procurement requests Council's approval to award contract RFP 11-18 Master Lease Financing Program to Bank of America Public Capital Corporation based on the results of the proposal evaluation and the recommendation of the Department of Finance.
Any questions or comments?
I was just going to ask, and I blacked out there for just. Who did we pick?
Bank of America.
Okay, and this is my question to Mr. When we fill out our ethics forms, I've gotten to the point where I have so little now, I can just Xerox it, sign it, get it to the notary, and get it to Kim. But that's because we had dealings with Bank of America several years ago, and then that stopped, and that made my pages much, much, much shorter. Would you have any idea if we accept this and Bank of America becomes part of people that we do business with, will that change for those of us and the employees and department heads that they do it too, don't they?
Yeah.
The ethics filings. Do you know if that would change that and make it so that?
These are what, ownership of shares?
Oh, I don't have any shares, Mark.
Look at your bank.
Got about $27 in the bank account until payday, but.
All right, the fact that you deal with that bank doesn't mean that you have any pecuniary interest or
what if you have a
profit.
mortgage?
You have to disclose that on like
I
Exhibit
think-
H or
yeah.
something of
As long
the.
as
Disclosing that you
indicate-
owe them
It's just
money
a
would be
question.
more than
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
That wouldn't, I don't think that's gonna raise any red flags. No.
Oh. Okay, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Any
Okay.
other questions? Okay.
Okay. The next item is an award of bid for invitation to bid A-05-18 aggregate materials. The Department of Procurement received a request from the Department of Field Operations to solicit bids for an open-end purchase-as-needed contract for the furnishing and delivery or pickup of various aggregate materials such as stone, riprap, fill dirt, gravel, stone dust, and select borrow. While the city has attempted to identify the estimated amounts of each bid item to cover its requirements, the amount ordered may be different than that submitted for bidding. No minimum purchase was implied or guaranteed. Thereby, the city reserves the right to decrease or increase the quantities acknowledged in the solicitation document, and said modifications do not constitute a change order. Additionally, the solicitation included a contract extension clause. This provides the city with the option to renew all or portions of this contract with the same prices, terms, and conditions as the original contract for 2 one-year terms, contingent upon sufficient budget appropriations and mutual agreement between the city and the vendor. The Department of Procurement followed standard competitive bidding practices by advertising in the Daily Times and posting the solicitation on both the City of Salisbury's procurement portal and on the State of Maryland's website, eMaryland Marketplace. 2 vendors submitted bids by the due date and time of July 2nd, 2018 at 2:30 p.m., and the bid tabulation has been provided for your reference. The bid items submitted by Vulcan Materials, as the lowest prices per item, will be purchased via this contract on an as-needed basis. All no-bid items from Vulcan Materials will not become part of this contract and will be purchased separately by obtaining quotes when these particular materials are required. Over the past 2 fiscal years, the city has spent approximately $45,000 per year on aggregate materials. The Department of Procurement hereby requests council's approval to award contract A-05-18 to Vulcan Materials Incorporated from Salisbury, Maryland, with all subsequent annual renewals processed by the Department of Procurement.
Any questions? Okay, Mrs. Miller.
Okay. The last one for this evening is a change order. The Department of Procurement received a request from the Department of Infrastructure and Development to process change order number 1 in the amount of $9,440 to invitation to bid 121-17, that's the Park Water Treatment Plant High Service Pumps. The scope of work in the original solicitation called for all labor, materials, and equipment necessary to design, furnish, and install horizontal split case pumps at the Park Water Treatment Plant Pump House. Additionally, the scope also included the replacement of the reducer fittings and pipe between the influent gate valve and the effluent gate valve. During the course of this work, unforeseen conditions arose, which necessitated this requested change order, the details of which are included in your departmental memo. Funds are available in the Park Water Treatment Plant project account noted in your packet. The Department of Procurement requests council's approval to process change order number 1 as noted above to Demco Incorporated in the amount of $9,440.
Question? I have one. Maybe you can help Amanda. Do you know what the original price was for the work?
I have it, yep. Yeah, the original contract value was $194,000.
Okay, September. Another question, just chemical engineering. What was the unforeseen circumstance?
So this particular pump number 4, was the only one that wasn't being completely replaced. And
That
so
was the one that was being repaired.
It was the one that was only being repaired, and then once we had all the other pumps
Then it would
taken
come
down, we
off.
realized one of the valves was leaking and the pump was in a little bit worse
Okay.
shape. So that we felt like this was very fair prices
Okay.
for the work. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mrs. Miller. We'll now call for the motion. All those in favor of the award of bids, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2860.
So moved. Seconded.
Excuse me. Mr. Heath.
Okay. Ms. Jackson made the motion. Mr. Rudisil, second. I got it. Oh, I thought you did motion and second.
You were gonna
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I neglected twice to do this. Lorraine Bosman is here, who volunteered for the Zoo Commission. We want to thank you very much for volunteering. I know the amount of time you're going to be putting in, and we appreciate it very much. Would you stand and be recognized? Thank you very much. All right, we have a motion and a second for resolution number 2860.
Resolution number 2860, a resolution of the City of Salisbury reversing resolution number 1124, which restricted parking on the south side of Canal Park Drive between the parking lot entrances of the easternmost building of Complex G, number 228 of Canal Woods in Salisbury, Maryland. Whereas resolution number 1124 was resolved to provide additional pedestrian safety around the Canal Woods swimming pools area, and whereas the high volume of traffic on Canal Park Drive in the area of the Canal Woods swimming pool area no longer exists because the swimming pool has closed permanently. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that there be no parking restrictions on the south side of Canal Park Drive between the parking lot entrances of the easternmost building of Complex G, number 228 of Canal Woods in Salisbury, Maryland.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of Resolution 2860, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Just to let everyone know, we will have a public hearing tonight on ordinance number 2496. The process will be, I'll call for a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Mr. Tillman will present the ordinance, and then we'll ask for those who speak to stand. So at this time, I'll call for a motion to approve ordinance number 2496.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Boda and Mr. Ireton. Mr. Tillman, would you please read the ordinance?
Yes, sir. As amended on July 23rd, 2018, ordinance number 2496, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to establish the Aaron Moore subdivision as a special assessment district for the purpose of financing the cost of stormwater management system repairs by assessing each lot owner the sum of $158 collectible in one installment on the real property tax bill. Whereas the City Council, the City of Salisbury, Maryland, passed Resolution 2851 determining that Aaron Moore subdivision is special assessment district, which would receive special benefits from the repairs to its stormwater management areas and providing for the payment of $158 by each lot owner in one installment on the real property tax bill. And whereas the City Council held a public hearing as required by Salisbury Charter 14-1, which is this evening. And whereas the City Council desires to enact an ordinance to establish the special assessment district and to require the collection of the special assessment from each lot owner, now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that pursuant to the Salisbury Charter, Sections 14-1, that one, a special assessment district is established on the south side of and binding upon Dykes Road as follows: all lots within the Aaron Moore subdivision. Paragraph 2, the special assessment of expenditures up to $24,000 based upon the actual final completed work shall be equally assessed on each of the 152 lots in the Aaron Moore subdivision. The special assessment shall be collectible from each of the lot owners in one installment of $158 as a real property tax bill. Paragraph 3, a special assessment shall not be levied against properties owned by the Aaron Moore Homeowners Association, Incorporated. 4, the special assessment shall be levied and collected, have the same priority rights, and bear the same interest and penalties in every respect as city real property taxes. In paragraph 5, the special assessment shall be collected solely for the purpose of paying for the cost up to $24,000 of the stormwater management system repairs needed throughout the subdivision. And be it further ordained by the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. At this time, anyone in the audience who wishes to speak, please stand and be sworn in by the clerk.
Okay, if you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And have a seat.
All right, I will now open the public hearing for ordinance number 2496. I would remind the public that you'll have 4 minutes to speak. We'll ask you to go to the podium one at a time, and when you've finished speaking, then we will close the public hearing. So who would like to go first?
I'll start.
Go right ahead. And when you go up, please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Joshua Knight. I live at 1402 Ardbrack Place. The reason I'm here tonight is because of the flooding issue that we have in the Aaron Moore development. When they did the erosion and sediment and everything on the subdivision, they have a berm in the back of our yards, and it's making everything flow towards our house. Well, in that case, it caused my HVAC under my house to flood, and it went bad. And I mean, that's not my fault that the house was built that way, but everything was underneath the house. So that cost me $5,000 to get it fixed. And is anyone else going to repay me back for that? I mean, that wasn't my fault that my yard flooded. So I tried to go through my homeowner's insurance. My homeowner's insurance wouldn't cover it. So then I tried to ask him, well, what would I need to do to get flood insurance? And it still wouldn't cover it even if it was under flood insurance for some reason. And I'm with State Farm. So why I'm here is, why are we paying the $158 when it wasn't our responsibility to have it done right the first time? So I don't know who I would begin to talk to about that. I mean, I work for a company called David A. Bramble, and I own my own company as well. And so, I mean, I know how sites are supposed to be built and how things are supposed to be draining. And my question is, when they redo the stormwater management, are they going to be taking out the berm in the back of our yards instead of making all the water flow to our house, make it flow away from our house? That's my question. I don't know who I would direct that to.
I think ultimately the questions could only really be answered by the homeowners association.
Okay.
Probably not anyone in the city. I don't think we would know. Amanda Pollock might be able to, as an engineer, shed some light. But broadly to your question as to why would you pay this and not, somebody else?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's the neighborhood asking the city to do this favor to them. The city would normally not get involved in something like this. We've agreed to, as a vehicle, to determine what company is most qualified to do the work.
Okay.
But otherwise, the city has no role really. The only other possible way that the HOA would have is to simply raise the HOA dues in the amount of, or probably greater than, because they'd have to vet, engineers and contracting companies to do the work.
Okay.
So this theoretically has helped to keep the costs down. I think we started off with like $125,000, and it's down to what, $24,000. But whose responsibility is it? I think go back in time and it was whoever developed it. It was the developer.
Right.
Today, it's the homeowners collectively of the neighborhood.
Now, I guess I would direct my question to you. What are they going to be doing to the stormwater management? Are they just going to be cleaning the ditches out? Exactly. So they're not, there's nothing going to be enforced for us nothing in the back. Because it doesn't affect a lot of the homeowners in the Aaron Moore development. It only affects the ones from the 4 streets behind Rural Farms, and that's one of the streets that I live on. And it does on the other side as well? Yes. Okay, I don't go that way much, but I just... Okay. Yeah, well, it's really the whole development, but I feel that our streets get it the worst because everything that comes off of Dykes Road just comes right down our road, and then everything that falls comes right down to our house. And granted, that's not our fault. Like Jake Day was saying, that it was beforehand. That it's just, it kind of sucks that we have to pay for it because it was done wrong in the first place. But I'm not opposed to not paying for it, because if it helps, that's fantastic. But if it doesn't, our money went to waste.
Well, if I may interject here.
Yes, ma'am.
Could we just, rather than have a discussion back and forth, if you'd like to speak, we'll swear you in when you finish, and then you can come up and answer his question. That would be fine. Okay.
That's pretty much all I have. I'm just wondering, if we pay this money, granted, it's not a lot of money. It's really not. But if we spend this money, is it going to fix the problem? That's my question about it. Because if it doesn't, then not only myself, but everybody else in the development is going to be out that money. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you would like to respond and answer, could we swear, Mrs. Nichols, could we swear her in and then?
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Their association.
We get 3 minutes. And again, please keep your comments brief.
My name is Flo Barnes. I live on Killarney, and I'm part of your HOA Association Council Board. We met with the city early this spring when this attention was brought to us about this problem, and we were therefore cited that we had a certain amount of time to resolve this issue. We've met with the city, they've gone out there and they've checked, and they have identified the biggest problem goes from the back of Aaron Moore up to our park. That's the area that we're going to be addressing and repairing at this time. And I greatly appreciate the fact that the city has stepped forward and helped us to alleviate some of this cost that we're doing. Because no way can we afford $124,000 out of our pockets towards our taxes to fix this issue. So $158 per homeowner is a pretty good deal to get this issue resolved. Will it take care of everything immediately? No. But it is going to address the main issues that need to be taken care of now. The drainage ditch behind Royal Farms will be dug down deeper, and trash things will be put on top of it to keep it from filling up so rapidly. Also, clearing the ditch behind it of the trees and stuff that are in that ditch now will stop some of the flooding. Also, if our homeowners would take the time to clean their ditches out behind their homes themselves, which is part of our agreement with our HOA association, that would also solve some of the problems. So again, I want to thank the city for taking the time to help us address this issue and get part of it resolved as soon as possible. So does that answer your question, sir?
I would suggest that a lot of these questions should be handled in inside the homeowners association meetings. So I would ask anybody that has further questions to contact the leaders of the homeowners association. Okay, and could you tell?
We have a yearly meeting, membership meeting. So if everyone attends, I'm the president. We have a VP. We have a treasurer. We have a storm water drain, I call the master. Because these are issues that we just took on. It was prior board. And with the city, as Flo was saying, we're really appreciative.
I would suggest that after the meeting, you get together and get the contact information, and then you could take care of it through the homeowners association. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. We had someone else that wanted to speak. Come on up. State your name and address, please.
Tyann Roberts, 1400 Ardbrack Place. And I understand what you're saying. I came here tonight thinking that this was going to help alleviate the problem that we're having. I don't have a problem paying the $150, whatever, but I just put out $12,000 and change to put a new system in at my house 2 years ago. Now, I never knew we had a homeowners officers at all, because I contacted the accountant and he told us we didn't have any officers for the homeowners association at that time. And I think that was the reason why he called a meeting to talk about this. Now, I came here because I was thinking that this was going to help address the problem that we're dealing with every time it rains, having a yard that's flooded. It cost me $12,000 because I turned around and put my unit up in the attic to keep it from happening again. But I'm still getting water under my house every time it rains hard. And so I'm just asking, okay, I understand that you're saying that you can't address that, but I would like to see the homeowners address this, because up until this point, I never knew we had any officers for the homeowners association. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I have one question.
It's not Q&A.
Yes, well, 1 second. We'll have to swear you in.
Okay. Hi, my name is Consuela Jones Mason, and I live at 1511 May Drive. I'm a little confused here as far as the 158, because he's staying off of Dykes Road. And I guess my division of Aaronmore, I'm on the newer version around the back end, so I'm on the other side of Royal Farms. We don't have a drainage in front of my house, which is mostly what floods, but as far as the 158, how's that gonna affect me? Because I'm not on I guess I'm not on the division these people are on. So are we on the 158 side? Because technically when Jim Craft built our home in 2004, apparently my lot, the front of it is city, but my backyard is county. So where do I fall at in this 158? Yeah, I got the letter, but.
That means you are in the section that is considered.
So, but what are they gonna do as far as drainage for me? I don't even have a sidewalk, a water drain, or anything.
So it's just the ditch maintenance.
I don't have a ditch. That's what I'm saying. I have the ditch and all that. It is on the front end by Dykes Road in front of Royal Farms. I'm like 2 streets over and around the corner, but it's the corner lot considered the new beginning of Airmore 2.
Well,
So
I think maybe what the
Airmore 1.
what the issue is the area that's being addressed is like community property. It's owned by the homeowners association. So as a dues-paying member of the homeowners association, you're part owner of the area.
I would recommend, I live in a condo, so I feel your pain. And for the officers that are in the room, I'm also on the condo board, so I absolutely feel your pain in this situation. The first thing you're going to want to do is look at your articles of incorporation or whatever establishes your homeowners association. Your bylaws, whatever the document is that establishes your association, that will tell you what your relationship is to this area. We have to be, and you know, I just say this as an aside, and it's not to be callous, we have to be careful about how we perceive the city's role in this, because if it gets out of control, then you place the city in a condition where this situation becomes a cautionary tale why we shouldn't intervene and assist private homeowners associations. So you know, when individuals are saying you might want to take this up with your homeowners association, we're intervening, and typically you would have to go to a private corporation, which would charge you a lot more than what the city is charging for this service. It is inconvenient, but that's how it works when you're a property owner, and then there's some sort of association for the broader community. So you need to be aware of your bylaws, how things are organized, and then be very active in how things move forward and how money's being spent.
Well, I mean, I paid the dues, but far as seeing an association, I don't know. I've only received
And we
a
can't
letter about
address
the
that
dues.
because it's a private.
I think that goes again back to you need to get with your homeowners association board members. They should provide you. They could provide you with the bylaws, and then you can figure it out between the two of you.
Okay.
Our
Well,
role.
I just wanted to know, as far as the 158, where did my role fall in that? Because I'm not on the end they're on, and I don't have.
Again, you're going to have to discuss that. You're going to have to discuss that with them. Okay.
That's outside of our scope of control.
Right.
Yeah.
We're responding to a request that came to us from your board. So then the specifics of that, it will be best taken up with your board.
Right.
Okay. But the 158 is going to the city, though, correct? Not to the board.
No, ma'am.
No,
No.
it's not.
No, ma'am. So
It's going to.
let me clarify.
Okay.
The city gets no money in this process.
Okay.
The city's only role was to facilitate a bid for a private contractor to do work in the neighborhood.
So the money goes to the contract?
The city could have stayed out of that,
Mm-hmm.
and the private contractors would have probably ended up charging quite a bit more for the neighborhood. The work was going to happen regardless, and the question would be, are you paying 158 through the tax bill or 158 through your HOA dues increasing, or more than 158? Either way, the work would have to be done by law. So the work is going to get done, and you are going to be charged one way or the other. The question is, was the city going to help facilitate to bring that price down, or was it going to be just a private process, and which would have probably caused an increased expense to you and your neighbors? So
What I would
it's
ask
not
them
a-
is this.
Okay.
When you do this, is this going to help alleviate the flooding throughout the entire?
That's
Because
what she wants to know.
my feeling is, and believe me, I've just said to Mayor Day, when I was mayor, these are the sins of letting stuff be built during a boom, letting stuff be built when
In places.
mayors before us wanted new things to come in the city, and we said, oh, sure, you can do that without sidewalks.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, that's the way this was done.
Yes,
And
it
it has always come back. Aaron Moore, I think my issue was with, I helped you with the water and with getting some of those ditches done as well. What you have to find out, and what this person right here is an expert at, is that if you deal with Royal Farms,
Right, but see, that's what I'm saying, I'm not on
I
that
know,
end.
but
Okay.
what the hope is that when the water finally is doing what the water is supposed to be doing, that even down at your end, you will see an effect because the water will have some place to go. That's what we're really hoping for, is that the water goes where it is supposed to go instead of going to all of those places. The berm, and again, I say the expert here really is if we've got somebody out there helping the homeowners association figure out, maybe we could, I'll nudge him over here, send somebody out there to look at the berm and go, what are your courses of action, even with the change at Royal Farms, and the trash is going to get in there, and you've got to figure out, and trash comes from people.
Mm-hmm.
The trash, you're going to have to get those things. It's the same issue on West Road, over on the west side where conduits and Cody Cox.
Yep.
Trash, I had a trash can in my office when I was mayor because that's what Howard pulled out of the Cody Cox. And that gets in there because people put them there.
Yeah.
So what I'm hoping is that even at the far end of you, because when we stopped that flooding at Cody Cox, houses a mile down the road saw less flooding because the water had somewhere to go to get to the river is really what it is. Because you've got streams and stuff that are around you, and this is where all this stuff goes. So I just say the expert is really not the mayor or myself or anybody else in the city council. It's really sitting right here in the room with us.
Okay, which one's the expert? Which one?
Okay. Okay. Well,
Now, if you're going to get the city to come out and take a look at the berms.
No.
Oh, we didn't say that.
I said
No,
you
he
should
didn't
ask
say
that.
that.
Well, that's a possibility because that's the part that's affecting mine and Ty's problem. Is because I'm the second house in from Dykes Road. I'm not nowhere near that ditch. So that ditch is doing nothing for me.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
President, may I suggest?
Yes.
Will you stick around afterward and talk?
She's saying the same
Okay.
thing.
All right.
She's saying the same thing.
Yeah. Will you stick around too?
Oh, yes,
We'll talk
I mean, 'cause I
afterward.
don't even know what
See if
this
there's not
is.
anything else that we can do together.
I'm completely fine with that.
All right.
Okay. Good. Anybody else want to speak? You were sworn in the second group, right? Okay.
My name is Craig Ames. I live at 204 Kinsale Court, and I just have kind of a general question. This is presented as, a one-time deal of $158, but when we were talking with Charles Culp, the engineer on this, there was like more than one phase. So are there going to be other phases where there's going to have to be new resolutions, or?
The city is not going to be involved in any future phases.
So this will be the only thing that the city is involved?
As of right now, it's the only thing that we have been officially requested to be involved in.
Yep.
So it's.
Because this only is like from where the park is on, and those of us that live on the other side of the park, the culverts going onto the road are actually a backup. So everybody in Kinsale, Donegal, and Castle Bar, we still get flooding. Now, whether what you do from that point forward helps us or not, remains to be seen. So.
Well, let me clarify one more time. We are not doing anything except we were the conduit to get the price, to put it bluntly, get the price down. That's our role.
Right.
Our role extends no further than that.
But now the neighborhood will have a relationship with a contractor who will have done work in the
Right.
neighborhood, and you could certainly negotiate additional work at that point if additional things are necessary.
Having lived there for almost 20 years, it's a little disappointing to see that the system in place on our side of the street, there's like 8 retention ponds on the other side of the street, and our drainage doesn't match anything close to
I'll
it.
just reiterate what Mr. Ireton said. Each of us in our district, in each of our districts, has one issue, at least. I certainly have one, where people were allowed to do something before regulations of sanity took place.
Yeah, and what was
And
required.
we're still fighting those things now, and it's frustrating because there is really nothing we can do in retrospect.
Right. It just seems like the developers should be held accountable or whoever because they didn't.
Some of them developers don't.
And some of them don't even know who the developers were in some cases. But your HOA, again, is your conduit to make sure that these things get taken care of. So I don't mean to pass the buck back, but we received a request. We responded to that request.
I appreciate the help.
And we
It's
hope.
just frustrating.
Yeah, trust me, I hear you.
Mr. President, if I can add one other
Yeah.
thing. This is a moment where we should reflect on the fact that, in 2012, the state of Maryland adopted new stormwater laws, and if there are any developers in the room, they're probably going to say, don't you dare say it. But I'm going to say it. It was a really good thing. These are stormwater regulations that will save us from problems, and there is one developer who is giving dirty looks right.
He's looking away. You can't hide, Chris.
He did not build the, I don't think he was born when Aaron Moore was. But it was a very good thing, and we complain about regulations, and we all want regulations to be smart and business to be effective, but at the end of the day, certain things are there to protect us all from situations just like this. So those changes were actually good for citizens around Maryland and for neighborhoods around Maryland that have been built since then. Now that being said, the reason why the developers get the pass on this is because that was the law back then, unfortunately, and it was may have been bad law and bad stormwater regulation, but at the time it was what was legal, and they built to the standard back then, even if it was insufficient. And moving forward, though, I think you're going to see the things that are built in this area and around our city are going to better manage the stormwater that falls onto the surfaces near us.
I know.
Okay, we have one more request. Yep.
I've been answered. I was just
Okay.
why it was done to begin with and now.
Anyone else wish to speak? Just, again, that's a question for the homeowners association, so you can contact
It's
her.
going to show up on their tax bill, is it
They'll
not?
show up on it.
They're going to get a special tax bill. They're
Yeah,
getting
it's
a
not in
special-
the dues.
The city is paying the contractor for the residents of the neighborhood,
just reimburse them.
and we're getting reimbursed.
Okay, if there's no other comments, I'll close the public hearing. I'll call the vote.
I have a couple of questions.
Certainly.
When do the bills go out?
The next,
was going to do that as a separate bill.
As a separate.
Separate.
It's actually city finance.
No, when? I'm sorry.
I think they were just waiting for this process to be complete.
Okay, and is there any way of getting some sort of update? Because I laughed around it when we had the public hearing, but Barbara Kane Thornton's going to be in here sometime in November, and she's going to walk up there and she's going to say, you did this, and
Show me
I
the
just want to
money.
make sure. Well, nobody comes to those glorious meetings. Those are the longest, most boring things. But what I'm worried about is when we get our financial health. Because we're still Mitchell Pond, we still get cited there. I thought that might be gone now.
It is.
After we have very little, if anything, left on that last page where she comes and she says. So my question is there any way possible that we can get a quarterly update to find out what percentage of it has been paid back?
yeah.
Yep.
I would prefer publicly to hold everyone accountable and I don't mind doing this for you because I know the situation you're in. But there are people who run against people for office that pick up on this sort of thing and are going to run with it. And I'm not going. I don't worry about getting hassled. You don't have to worry about hassling me. I'm a public school teacher and I've been the mayor of Salisbury, so you can't upset me at all. But I think it's going to be important for us to find out: are we 50% paid back? Are we 75% paid back? And that will mean there needs to be communication between finance.
As soon as the bills go out and whatever the original period of payment is, whether it's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, we'll do an update, and then we can do a quarterly one after that.
Great.
Is that okay?
Yeah. What's her name, Pam? Who comes
from Barbicane Thornton?
From Barbicane Thornton.
Hurricane Thornton.
Yeah, let her know that we did this. Please.
Okay. I'll now call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2496, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Chair votes aye. Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate the public input, by the way. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2497 for the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson? Mr. Boda? Mr. Tillman?
It's an ordinance of the council of the city of Salisbury to authorize and empower the city of Salisbury for the public purpose of financing, reimbursing, or reimbursing or refinancing costs of a project that the city generally refers to as the sewer extension Mount Herman Road, as provided herein, to issue and sell from time to time upon its full faith and credit one or more series of general obligation bonds and general obligation bond anticipation notes, each in an original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $120,000, and general obligation refunding bonds, provided that the original aggregate principal amount of any series of refunding bonds shall not exceed 130% of the aggregate principal amount of the bonds refunded therefrom. Determining that any series of bonds be sold to the Maryland Water Quality Financing Administration by private sale without public bidding, authorizing the approval of the resolution of one or more loan agreements with the administration and with respect to any such loan agreement, acknowledging the administration's right thereunder, making a pledge of certain revenues received from the state of Maryland, and acknowledging certain payment responsibilities of the city. Providing that the council by resolution shall determine or provide for certain details of any such series of general obligation bonds, bond anticipation notes, or refunding bonds, each a series of obligations or obligations, including with respect to any debt service reserve account required by the administration, pledging the city's full faith and credit and unlimited taxing power to payment of any such obligations, and providing for the imposition of ad valorem taxes upon all real and personal property within the city, subject to the assessment for unlimited municipal taxation to pay any such obligations, identifying or providing for the determination of the sources from which debt service or any such series of obligations will be payable in the first instance, authorizing the council by resolution to provide for the post-closing modifications affecting any series of bonds or refunding bonds issued to the administration, providing that any of the obligations may be consolidated with any other obligations authorized by the council and issued as a single series of obligations, authorizing and directing officials and employees of the city to take any and all action necessary to complete and close the issuance, sale, and delivery of any such series of obligations and to consummate the transactions contemplated by this ordinance, providing that this title shall be deemed a statement of the substance of this ordinance for all purposes, providing that the provisions of this ordinance shall be liberally construed and otherwise generally related to the issuance, sale, delivery, and payment of and for any such series of obligations. And I presume you don't.
One breath.
Yes, my God, I was like this.
I don't know how you do that, but that was one
I
breath.
took a breath for you, Mike.
Okay. This is basically the bond ordinance that was, we're compelled to do with the water quality financing people. And it's been prepared by our bond counsel, so I have full faith in her.
Any questions? All right, hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2497 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Please note that Mr. Ireton stepped out for a minute.
He's gone for the minute.
Oh, he's gone?
He's gone for the minute.
Oh, okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2498 for the second reading.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Tillman?
Right, this ordinance number 2498 is a similar water quality bond and ordinance of the Council of the City of Salisbury to authorize and empower the City of Salisbury for the public purpose of financing, reimbursing, or refinancing costs of a project that the city generally refers to as the City Service Center Comprehensive Environmental Site Design, as provided herein, to issue and sell from time to time upon its full faith and credit one or more series of general obligation bonds and general obligation bond anticipation notes, each an original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $500,000, and general obligation refunding bonds, provided that the original aggregate principal amount of any series of refunding bonds shall not exceed 130% of the aggregate principal amount of the bonds refunded therefrom. Determining that any such series of bonds be sold to the Maryland Water Quality Financing Administration by private sale without public bidding, authorizing the approval by resolution of one or more loan agreements with the administration, and with respect to any such loan agreement, acknowledging the administration's right thereunder, making a pledge of certain revenues receivable from the state of Maryland, and acknowledging certain payment responsibilities of the city, providing that the council by resolution shall determine or provide for certain details of any such series of general obligation bonds, bonds anticipation notes, or refunding bonds, each a series or a series of obligations or obligations, including with respect to any debt service reserve account required by the administration, pledging the city's full faith and credit and unlimited taxing power to payment of any such obligations, and providing for the imposition of ad valorem taxes upon all real and personal property within the city subject to the assessment for unlimited municipal taxation to pay any such obligations, identifying or providing for the determination of the sources from which debt service or any such series of obligations shall be payable in the first instance, authorizing the council by resolution to provide for post-closing modifications affecting any series of bonds or refunding bonds issued to the administration, providing that any of the obligations may be consolidated with any other obligations authorized by the council and issued as a single series of obligations, authorizing and directing officials and employees of the city to take any and all action necessary to complete and close the issuance, sale, and delivery of any such series of obligations and to consummate the transactions contemplated by this ordinance, providing that this title shall be deemed a statement of the substance of the ordinance for all purposes, providing that provisions of this ordinance shall be liberally construed and otherwise generally relating to the issuance, sale, delivery, and payment of and for any such series of obligations. So this is the bigger sum in this bond.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2498 for the second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2499 for the first reading.
To move.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda. Mr. Tillman.
Okay, this is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's capital project fund budget and grant fund to reallocate funding for the Salisbury Revitalization Riverwalk Amphitheater project. Whereas ordinance number 2423 appropriated funds for the fiscal year 2018 budget, whereas ordinance number 2423 allocated capital project appropriations in the amount of $400,000 of contributions for the Riverwalk Amphitheater project, and whereas ordinance number 2482 appropriated funds for the fiscal year 2019 budget, and whereas ordinance number 2482 allocated capital project appropriations in the amount of $100,000 of contributions for the Riverwalk Amphitheater project, and whereas the City of Salisbury has received grant funding from the State of Maryland through Senate Bill 186 of the 2018 General Assembly session, and whereas the State of Maryland has designated the Department of General Services to distribute these funds in the amount of $500,000, and whereas a budget amendment is requested to reclassify the funding from contributions to grants, and whereas a transfer of $500,000 will be made to the Riverwalk Amphitheater Capital Projects account from contributions, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the city's capital projects fund and the grant fund budget be amended as follows. And basically the amount and the reductions in the general capital projects are shown in the first two lines in those two accounts, and then the addition of the $500,000 is showing up as grant funding under the two accounts 10500-424000-29037 and account 10500-513026-29037 for a total of $500,000.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2499 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2500 for the first reading.
So moved.
Mr. Rudisil.
Second.
Ms. Jackson. Mr. Tillman.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's capital project fund budget to reallocate funding for the Johnson Lake Dam improvements project. Whereas ordinance number 2423 appropriated funds for fiscal year 2018 budget. And whereas ordinance number 2423 allocated an appropriation of $240,000 for the Johnson Lake Dam improvements project. And whereas funding for the project in Schedule B of ordinance 2423 was allocated as $156,948 from stormwater pay-go and $83,052 from reallocation of prior year bonds. And whereas a budget amendment is requested to accomplish the reallocation of prior year bonds as planned for ordinance number 2423, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the city's capital projects fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. And the I think that's, you know, probably don't want me to read all those numbers, but that basically explains where the money's coming from and where it's headed.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2500 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion to approve ordinance number 2501 for the first reading. Mr. Rudisill.
Second.
Ms. Jackson.
Okay, this is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland pursuant to Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code and Section 4.04 of Article 66B of the Annotated Code of Maryland for the purpose of amending Section 17.04.120 and 17.76.020A to define multi-use facility and to allow multi-use facilities as a permitted use, whereas the ongoing application, administration, enforcement of the Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code demonstrates the need for periodic review, evaluation, and amendment that will keep Title 17 current. And whereas the mayor and city council may amend Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code pursuant to the authority of Article 66B of the Annotated Code in accordance with specific provisions of Chapter 17.228, amendments and rezoning of Title 17, and whereas the mayor and city council requested that the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission periodically review Title 17 in light of existing procedural practices and input from the City Council and members of the public, and whereas Deverco Glenn LLC submitted an application to amend the text of the definition of a multi-use facility and to allow multi-use facilities as permitted use in the light industrial zoning districts, and whereas a public hearing on the proposed amendment was held by the Planning Commission in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code on May 17, 2018, and whereas the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed amendments to Section 17.04.120 and 17.76.020A. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code is hereby amended as follows. Amend Section 17.76.020A, permitted uses, by adding the following item. Number 32, multi-use facility. And then in order to explain what that is, amended Section 17.04.120 definitions by adding the following item. And then in quotes, multi-use facility is defined as two or more similar or different uses on a lot or parcel that are connected in physically separate areas and permitted inherently or otherwise in the district in which located, provided that the lot or parcel and improvements thereon satisfy the total parking, lot area, and other requirements of the uses. The facility shall not be deemed to be a shopping center if the total floor area of the uses in which the principal activity is on-site retail sales does not exceed 1/3 of the gross floor area of the entire facility. Be it further ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage, but in no event until 10 days after the date of the council's public hearing.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2501 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2502 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, give it to you, and Ms. Jackson will give it to you. Thank you.
Okay, ordinance number 2502 is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland pursuant to Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code and Section 4.102 of the Land Use Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland for the purpose of amending Section 17.20.020 to add hotel or motel as a permitted use in the college and university districts. Whereas the ongoing application, administration, enforcement of Title 17 of the zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code demonstrates a need for periodic review, evaluation, and amendments that will keep Title 17 current, whereas the mayor and city council may amend Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code pursuant to the authority granted by the Maryland Code Land Use, Section 4-101, and in accordance with the specific provisions of Chapter 17.228, amendments and rezoning of Title 17. And whereas the mayor and city council requested that the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission periodically review Title 17 in light of existing procedural practices and input from the city council and members of the public, and whereas the Pirius Realty Group submitted an application to amend the text of the Chapter 17.2 College and University District, specifically the addition of a new item N to Section 17.20.020, and whereas a public hearing on the proposed amendment was held by the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 Zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code. Was that held the same date that's not filled in here? All right. So the public hearing was held on, let's see. Thank you. May 17th of this year. And whereas the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed text amendment to Section 17.20.020, now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Title 17 Zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code is hereby amended as follows. Amend Section 17.20.020, permitted uses, by adding item N as follows, and item N consists of hotel or motel, which is now a permitted use in that district, if passed. And be it further ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage, but in no event until 10 days after the date of the council's public hearing.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2502 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Ms. Nichols, we're going to get a notice out on the public hearing?
Yes, it'll be September 10th.
Great. Public hearing will be September 10th. We have one request for public comments. Riley Smith.
Yeah, I'm a little late to the party. I just noticed the budget being discussed last time. But I want to start out with the manufacturing exemptions. And briefly, I'll go over it. Smith's Interconnect, 3686. Purdue, 173,398. Machining Technologies, 19,338. 21,654 for K&L Microwave. Delmarva Printing, $3,150. And for Jubilant Cadista Pharmaceuticals, $399,619. So once again, that's a reduction / giveaway to these manufacturers and our taxes, which somehow has to come out of real estate taxes. And I guess I was wondering if the administration would consider reducing, however you want to, expenses of government or projects to make up for these amounts of money, or is it going to be again on the backs of the property tax owners? Moving on, there is no tax, it says revenues. The proposed budget includes no change in tax rate of 2.4 for personal property, 281 for railroad, 0.9832 for real property, which produce a tax levy of 24.8. And I'm assuming the increase in value of appraisals was considered here. So there really is an increase in the real property tax, regardless of how you want to say it. I'm not quite sure. I'm a little confused, or well, a little scared really, about the governmental activities invested in capital assets net of debt. Last year it was 24,470. In 17 it was 32,188. Their definition is the difference between the amount paid for capital assets. such as buildings and the debt used to acquire those assets, such as loans and mortgages. So that increased. And then down on the business type activities, it went from 38, is that thousand or million? Whatever. 38,987 to 56,018. Well, I don't understand why that jumped so dramatically, and what are we getting for that money? The liability, pension liability, is scary. And there are two papers that were adopted in that, in the notes to the from the last meeting. One, it looks like the same piece of paper, same page description, but one of them says the pension liability is 29 million for 16, and for 17 it's 37 million. The other one says it's for 16, 26 million, and in 17, 33 million. I'm not quite sure why there's a difference there. But that is one scary number, and I'm not quite sure. Does the state, it's an accrual, I guess, for the state. It's Salisbury's share of the pension liability. But is that funded yearly, or is this, oh, bam, okay. Everybody retires from the city, and we don't have any funds to pay for the $32 million pension liability and another $17 million for the post-employment health benefits. Is that required by the state? Is the state going to pick up the tab, or is the city responsible for it?
Yes.
City's responsible, or the state?
Both.
Okay. Well, how much for the city?
The city has to, the city is responsible for it. It's an estimated number.
Yeah.
That changes every year.
Okay. But eventually, it's going up.
So you want us to take the pension away from the people?
Is it in the form of a 401k?
No, they're members of the state retirement
state
system.
Pension fund, right?
State pension fund.
All right, so they get it regardless. Do I want to take it away? No.
Oh, okay.
But an increase from 25 million
okay,
to
can you wrap it up?
32 million is extreme, in my opinion.
It's the way it's evaluated.
Well, still got to
Okay.
be paid for.
All right.
All right, wait a minute, I'm not done.
Yes, you are.
Why?
Your time's up.
He gets to say that.
Your time's up.
Censored
But
again.
I would like to make a comment about manufacturing tax exemption. Those are 5-year exemptions, and we do eventually collect on those. And the second thing, I'm very encouraged. I'm very encouraged.
Walked out, so.
I'm very encouraged to see the investment of those companies, because in the long run, that's gonna benefit us.
Yeah, can I add something to that? Mr.
Absolutely.
President? I wished Mr. Smith had stuck around for this. We got hit over the head the other day with a request from a manufacturer who's here, who was frustrated with having to go through the process to apply for an exemption, and learned that we are the last municipality in Maryland that charges for manufacturers, charges inventory tax or personal property tax for manufacturers, and doesn't automate the exemption. So we could certainly have that discussion about automating it so it didn't have to come before council, and then we would be in line with our other counterparts. The county automated theirs. It took them nearly 10 years to implement it because they did have to plan to forego, because there are manufacturers who don't apply. For it. Who do not apply for the exemption. There are manufacturers in the city limits who are eligible, who do not apply for the exemption. And let's not forget, we have 12% manufacturing employment in this city. Maryland has 2%. The rest of the state, you can't hold on to manufacturing, but somehow this city can. So I think, those jobs are worth it, keeping them here locally.
Absolutely.
And, I'd say whoever it was that came up with the idea of the manufacturing tax exemption, I'd support it today.
Yep. I would too. Anything for the good of the order? Hearing none, we're adjourned.